let's talk about why I asked my Commander playgroup to roast me, what they said, and why you should do it too. If you're anything like me, then the thought of your playgroup telling you all the reasons that you suck makes you want to crawl into a big pile of shiny collector boosters and never ever leave. It certainly did for me, but I knew that I should do it anyway. Because one of my main goals in a game of Commander is that the people around the table leave the game thinking, wow, I really enjoyed that game, and playing with base deck department was actually pretty great. And that when they're sitting down again to play a game in the future, that they're excited to play with me again. This influences a whole lot, like how I build my decks, how I craft play patterns and experiences, and how I communicate. And I've said this before, but in spirit, I think a good Commander game is almost more like a Dungeons & Dragons session than it is a traditional 1v1 competitive game of Magic. So I think about my impact on the game quite a lot, and while I would like to think that I am a thoughtful and introspective person, we all have our blind spots, and that's why I wanted to ask the people that I play with the most what they think. I already had some ideas of things that I felt that I could likely be doing better, like being visibly impatient when games go too long, or when someone is playing very slowly, and not taking up too much space in the game because I tend to yap a lot. So I asked my playgroup this: if I had to ask for at least one thing or reason that makes playing Commander with me enjoyable, and then at least one thing that I could do better or stop that would make playing Commander with me more fun, what would your answers be? And you're more than welcome to give more than one answer on either end. Roast me. I asked for something good, mainly so that they would feel comfortable telling me something critical, because it was the latter that I really cared about. And it's worth calling out that I've played with this group for quite a long time, so if there was any glaring personality or alignment clashes, I'd likely have known this a long time ago. That said, here's what they had to say. On the positive side, Player 1 thought that I create a fun and a good environment that's quite social, and that I also push to progress games to the end so that they don't drag on. On the constructive side, they thought that I'm a little bit too good at politics and win too much because of it. And I tend to agree with all of this. They 100% have got my number re the yapping, so a note made to give some space in games. Player number 2 thinks that I make every game enjoyable and that they like all my decks. On the constructive side, they think I abuse my knowledge of Magic and politicking powers a little bit too much, and they wish that I would pick my decks first when we're playing together. And this is strike 2 for yapping and politics. I think the point around deck picking is an interesting one, as I often try to pick my deck at the end so that it works well with the pod and doesn't screw anyone else over, but I can also see how it could be seen as being crafty. On the positive side, player number 3 thinks I bring good vibes, banter and conversation to a pod, and that I'm proactive at helping new players. On the constructive side, they think the one thing that I can do is less politics and mind games with newer players, and that I shouldn't play other people off as a threat to safeguard my own position. And that's strike 3 for yapping, guilty as charged. I think the main thing I take away from this is giving more space to newer players. Player number 4 thought I was welcoming and helpful to newer players, and they seemed to enjoy my yapping. On the constructive side, they didn't have too much to say. Player number 5 thought I focus on fun for the table, and that sometimes I create space for players who are behind to get back into the games. On the constructive side, they called out less live coaching during games, giving newer players the chance to make mistakes and learn from them. This is a particularly interesting one for me, because I think often I'm just bluffing or meddling rather than coaching, but I also think there's some truth to that. I think occasionally I do try to help newer players, only to realize what looked like a misplay wasn't a misplay because of an unknown factor I didn't know about. Either way, this is on theme with previous points of creating more space for newer players and less yapping. Player number 6 enjoys that I generally create a fun environment at the table, but on the constructive side thinks that I can sometimes play decks that offer no visible early threat, but if left alone, win far too much. Yeah, I think there's some truth to this one, especially as a big part of my early game strategy is usually flying under the radar. I have to admit, I thought this was going to go much worse for me, so I was both pleasantly surprised and a little bit disappointed as I was hoping for some really thought-provoking things. I obviously didn't want to hear that people hated me, but especially for the purposes of this video, I was hoping for something more spicy. That said, it's also nice to know that my spidey senses are somewhat well attuned. So that's me, a serial yapper that needs to cut back on the yapping. Or what about you? Well, I think this is a great exercise for everyone to do and that you should do it too. Here's why. As I said earlier, we all have blind spots, and doing this with your playgroup could alert you to something about yourself that you definitely want to change if you knew about it. Or perhaps the feedback finally makes you take action on something you've known about but have been too lazy to tweak, like me and my yapping. Or maybe you just learn that they really enjoy their games with you, and you can stop worrying about whether you're going to be last pick or the next pod. Secondly, Commander games are at their best when the entire table is having a good time, and the rest of your pod having more fun will thus mean you have more fun. Understanding what your playgroup does or doesn't like about their games with you will help you do your part to foster a better play environment that creates more fun. Through this process, you might also realize that you're really not aligned with your playgroup at all, and if this is the case, knowing this is the biggest gift you can get. That way, you can go out there and find people more in line with what you're looking for. And ultimately, doing all of this will make the people around you appreciate you more, and you'll develop better friendships. Hell, you might even get targeted less because of how much they like you. So yes, this was secretly all just tech to help you win more games, but don't tell anyone, and I won't either. If there's one thing you take away from this video, I'd like it to be this. Most people are resistant to feedback that is proactively given to them, or are too scared to go out there and proactively seek it. If someone likes or doesn't like you, or dislikes some aspect of what you bring to the Commander table, not knowing about it doesn't make it not exist. It's the unsaid things that break up playgroups. So do yourself and your friends a favor and ask to be roasted. If you're still here, you're clearly based as fuck, so I don't have to tell you what you should do to the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons. When you're done with that, come and hang out in the Base Deck Department Discord, and thank you for watching.